going to Adam's school because his teacher was telling me, I told you parent-teacher conference, like academically, he's like maxed out, like for what they do there, you know what I'm saying? So he said to me, like, you know, it's too bad that like he can't go to the work site like 4 days a week. So he's like, I know that they have 2 different groups that go. He's like, so, you know, why don't you see, you know, ask Mr. Trek, see if you can get him into the work site 4 days a week. He's like, that's what I think he would benefit from. So I'm like, all right. So I messaged Tremblay yesterday or whatever. She was at a meeting in Brooklyn. So she's like, I could either call you like early to either, you know, evening. She's like, because we have an event at the school. Or, you know, I could call, you know, tomorrow I'm supervising the seed program tomorrow morning. So I'm like, well, tomorrow's fine then. And she's like, all right, any time not work? I said, anything after 10. So she's like, okay. So I get up, I get in the shower, I get out at 10:15 or whatever it is, and I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna run errands, I'm gonna take them to LED signs. I know she's at the school. So I'm like, let me see if I can just go in there and see her, because I'd rather do it personally, right? So I did. I saw her. She comes down, she brings me and Adam in her office. She's like, is it LED sign day today? I'm like, yes it is. So she's like, okay, he's too funny. So I said to her, I said, listen, I had a great parent-teacher conference conversation with Mr. Judd. You know, we both agree, like, academically, you know, Adam is, like, kind of gotten all that he can get, right, from here. Like, he's, like, the, you know, #1 in his class. You know, he's getting hundreds on his assessments. I'm like, you know, I got him accepted into Access VR. I've got his work plan in Access VR. You know, I said, she said to me, she goes, he hasn't turned 22 yet. I said, no, he's going to be 21 this month. And I explained, like, you know, I have him in summer youth, you know, because I didn't think that he could stay in September. She goes, no, he can, even if he doesn't come back in September, he can do the summer youth. I'm like, oh, I thought he had to be coming back in September. She's like, no, he was still a full-time student in June when he was enrolled in it. She's like, no, he could do the summer youth. I'm like, okay. I'm like, because I told Access VR for him to start in August because I was going to go on vacation in July. She's like, oh, do you know when you're going to go? What week in July? So, well, I haven't booked anything yet. I was just thinking I'd take it earlier, but I don't, you know, I don't have to. Like, I don't have it yet, you know. So she's like, okay. She said, so I said, listen, I said, you know, he was supposed to start, I know the job thing back in November, right? He got, you know, offered to go to the work site, and then nothing happened. And then I reached out to Mr. Blvd, and I was told right after the, you know, the December break. And then that didn't happen. And he didn't just get the paper, he just started, like, literally Wednesday was his first day. I'm like, you know, Thursday was a half a day. I said, being that he's about to, like, go into this, like, job program with Access VR or whatever it is, like, I would really like him to get as much possible experience at worksite as possible, right? So I don't know if there's a way that he can go more days a week or whatever it is. So she's like, well, let me see. I printed out, you know, I pulled out some rackles. Let me look. You know, a class list. Let me see what I could do. You know, this other class here has, you know, a kid that left to go to Queens. Maybe I can put him in, you know, in here. You know, the teacher, you know, has more than, that teacher has like 13, I think, or 12. But, you know, she's like, the great thing is, like, my teachers don't really, like, complain or make an issue, you know, if it's one kid over, you know, when it's one of our kids moving over to something. She's like, you know, well, you know, listen, but if it's a work site, it's not like they're going to be in the class getting instruction either, right? Because I look at it differently. He's not. So she said, well, let me see what I could do. She goes, maybe what I could do is I can get him into, like, next week, have him do 3 and maybe do 4. Let me find out from the coordinators in Scott, like, if Borough Park has a spot for 4. Otherwise, if not, we have, like, I forget which teacher she said does, like, Mimo right over here. You know, so she said, let me find out. She goes, you know, and then eventually, she goes, that'll change busing, because I think the bus takes him straight to work site for these kids, because he would be going, like, straight to the work site or whatever, and I guess, and then coming back to the school or whatever. She goes, that might, you know, it might be busing change. You know, I said, listen, I don't leave, you know, the mornings is not an issue, right? If the bus is coming a half hour later or whatever it is, that's for me not a big deal, because I don't have to leave before 9, right? So that's not an issue. He gets off the bus every day by himself, you know, so that's not a big deal. So she's like, okay. She goes, all right, well, let me see what I could do. She goes, I agree. You know, and she said, listen, she goes, hopefully I can get him fully migrated so that in June he's full-time at the work site, right? And he'll be there 5 days a week. I'm like, that would really be great, because I think that that's the experience of him reporting to a job location, being given direction, meeting up with whoever's going to, supervisor, whatever it is. That's where he, what he needs, so whatever it is, really, at this point. So she said, all right. She asked me, she's like, do you have the special needs trust set up? I said, yeah, I did all that already, whatever. She's like, okay. And then, she said he's graduating this year. I said, yes. And she said, okay. She goes, well, for summer youth, if he's going to do the summer youth, she goes, even if he gets into a program in August, let him do summer youth for, whatever, the 4 weeks, 5 weeks. She goes, I'll have him go over there at the Borough Park Center for the summer youth. Like, we'll have him go right there for summer youth. So I was like, okay, that sounds good. She goes, yeah, and this way, he can, and she goes, and then he does, whatever he does until he gets in the program. She goes, no harm. And then if he gets into the program and he has to stop summer youth the last week or whatever it is, in 2 weeks, no harm, no foul. I was like, okay. So that was, great conversation. And then they were doing something. We had to step out like in the middle of the conversation because they were doing a fashion show, because they have this group that's going on Saturdays, and they're teaching the kids about wearing, like, dressing up for work. So they're wearing like suit, jacket, tie, or whatever. So they had, like, the kids were coming out to show Tremblay because it was the first week, and she was like, oh shoot, like, I left my phone upstairs, in the office by seat or whatever. I'm like, I'll take the pictures. So I took pictures, I sent them or whatever. So I get ready to leave, and I'm like, I said, because, like, I have like a sprinkle of people all over the place, like, lie, like, I know what people here are there. I said, I heard like a rumor that you might be on a short list for. She goes, yeah, I'm on the short list for. I said, for Kettler or for deputy? She said Kettler. Oh, I said, well, that would be good. I said, oh, but that's crazy, because all my Queen's grievances for 683, I would have to send them to you. so she laughed. She goes, yeah, I don't really get too many. I said, listen, I get some, decent ones and some crazy ones or whatever it is. But she said, like, listen, we just, I said, listen, I think, I think you do really well. Let me know if you need any parent recommendations. Or whatever. Be definitely willing to, write your recommendation or whatever. Because she said to me, she goes, I wish I had him from when he was 14. She goes, because it would have been, like, things would have been different, And I said, no, I know, I understand. I said, listen, I don't regret not 1 second him being here, and I can't, like, cry over spilled milk or whatever, I didn't have a terrible experience with 811. It's just when that whole thing, when they were just going to move them like that just really, with no communication, like, I lost all respect for that principal. So, I said, I said, that's good though. I said, because you know what, you started, as a para, you worked your way up, so you understand, all sides of it. I said, if you get in there, see what you can do to get more, like, job type programs like this for kids, like in the DOE. I said, next time I see Michael Mogul, I'm going to ask him, like, why aren't we doing something like this, like, with UFT? Like, it should start with us too. So, but I was like, oh, well, no, I think someone else kind of, like, mentioned something. I don't know if someone else mentioned something. I said, well, clearly I won't say anything, to anybody, whatever. She said, I forget, she said the name of somebody came to see her, like, last year, and then the chancellor went to see her at the